Matt and Friends Drink the Universe is proudly sponsored by the Poppins Travel Company. Whether you're traveling across the universe like us or right here on planet Earth, it's always a good idea to have an expert to help you plan your trip. For your travel experts, look no further than the Poppins Travel Company. They'll help you book your next adventure or vacation, and the best part is they'll do your travel planning for free. To schedule a virtual appointment with one of their highly qualified travel agents, visit their website, www.poppistravelcompany.com. That's www.poppistravelcompany.com, or call them at 407-494-4070. That's 407-494-4070. Hello, listeners. We're all here to have fun,
but we'd like to take a moment to encourage you to always drink responsibly.
Never drink and drive.
If you have a complicated relationship with alcohol or other substances and you want to talk about it,
you can call 1-800-662-4357 for support.
Thank you for listening.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have liftoff.
Welcome to Matt and Friends Drink the Universe.
All right, welcome back, everyone, to Matt and Friends Drink the Universe. I'm very excited about today's episode. Today's episode theme is going to be...
Lights. Camera. Spirits.
So it's going to be Lights, Camera, Spirits, our Halloween special. Joining me here today, outside of our normal recording space, is...
Hi, guys. It's Rob.
All right. And also with us today, I'm very excited to introduce writer, producer, director, best-selling author, host of the Cinema Podcast, and if I interpreted our family tree correctly, my second cousin. Welcome, Harrison Smith. Thank you so much for being with us on the podcast today.
It's nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
So we're going to ask you some questions now.
Bring them on.
The people need to know things.
That's true. So what are you working on right now? What do you got going on?
Well, the writer's strike is over. The actor's strike is still going on. So I'm on hold on 3 different projects. I'm supposed to be heading to California anytime now to do a horror film, a slasher film in Big Bear. I'm pretty excited about that with the cast and everything. And then moving on to supernatural horror called Keepsake, and then also doing one that I just optioned the rights to, a serial killer true life story called Break, which is based on the true story of the bone breaker in Michigan. And he used to capture these kids, and he got off on the sound of breaking bones.
Oh my God.
Ooh.
And this kid got away. And so I ended up optioning the survivor's story, and we're going to turn that into a film.
Wow.
And we're really excited. We want to get offers out to a couple, big name stars. I have one in mind who's one of my favorite actors. I can't say who it is yet because he's not under contract.
Okay.
All right.
No inside baseball today.
Because the only reason why is it's all bullshit until they sign the contract.
Sure.
So there are no contracts to sign until the strike is over. So I'm hoping I get him. He's a fan of my work anyway. He's read a previous script that I have one going on developing in Canada called Little Green Men, which is based on the true story or alleged true story of an alien attack on a Kentucky farm in 1954, which is where the name Little Green Men came from, where the term came from. The sheriff who investigated wrote down on the police report, farm came under attack from Little Green Men. Wow. So that's how that phrase entered our lexicon.
That's really cool.
So Harrison, I'm going to start off and just ask, why horror? What draws you to that medium? What drew you to that based upon that versus other types of cinema?
Well, I love all kinds, but since a boy, my grandmother and I used to watch horror films all the time. I spent an incredible amount of time with my grandmother. My mother and my biological father had a pretty rough relationship. It was an ugly divorce, so I spent a lot of time with my grandmother, who was my father's mother. And if you watch the movie The Fields with Cloris Leachman and Tara Reid, that's the true story based on my childhood and the events that happened on their farm in the summer of '73, which explains the horror stuff. I would just watch horror movies either late night with her or I'd watch them, Saturday afternoon creature features. By the time I was 8 years old, I mean, I knew Peter Cushing, Vincent Price, Peter Lorre, you name them, Boris Karloff, Bela Lugosi, I knew them all. So I have my grandmother to thank for that. I wrote a book about it called This Time It's Personal, which is a history of the horror genre and what I grew up loving, and then seeing a lot of these films also in theaters and the fantastic theatrical experiences these films gave, which we just don't have anymore now. The pandemic helped bring that to an end. To be in a seat, in a house with 350 seats and people screaming their asses off, that's a rush. That's a lot of fun. And we just don't have that anymore. We just really don't. And so watching horror films with groups, like I'm excited to hear that you're having like a group watch of the special. Somebody on TikTok did one with like 25 people, and they were all like, oh, this is fucked up. And on. It's like they posted that. I'm just enjoying, like, I had to chime in on the comments and go, just so you know, that's my movie. And the one girl was like, get the hell out. So then she started following me, but they just loved it because it achieved what I wanted. We got to show it theatrically in York for its premiere. And I was sitting in the back and nobody knew I was sitting in the back. And this woman came storming with her husband in tow, and she walked right by. She had no idea who I was. And she was just like, I've had enough of this shit. And she walked out. And it was like, that's a rave right there. That's
shock and awe.
Yep.
Fantastic.
If they're walking out, then it's a good thing. And if you pissed them off, it's a really good thing. So there we go. So that's my answer. I loved it since I was a child.
Awesome.
Very cool. Since you mentioned her, I wanted to ask, I listened today to the episode. I was trying to get caught up in your podcast a little bit, and I listened to the Tara Reid episode, and I thought it was absolutely fantastic. When I listened to it. It was a lot of information that, I wasn't aware of. She uttered one of my favorite lines in cinema ever, which is, I'm Gwen Pearson, staff writer for the Liberator in Van Wilder, which I remember that movie when it came out, thoroughly enjoyed it. So when I heard you worked with her, I thought that was really, really cool.
Yeah, Tara and I are still close friends. We've stayed very close.
Oh, very cool.
That's awesome.
Very cool. I enjoyed the story about the dog as well.
Oh, she was great with that. She never missed a beat. She was terrific.
So I'm alluding to a story that Harrison tells on his podcast, and I'd like you to go listen to that particular episode because it is fantastic and it's a wonderful story, and will teach you things you didn't know about somebody you probably thought you knew something about, but you really don't.
Yeah, that's why I did it. People have just been absolutely horrible to Tara, and or as I said the one time, terrible to her. So it's like, I've always stuck by her, and I loved working with her. I would work with her again in a heartbeat, and I so enjoyed her. So, and like I said, we stay close. We're wishing each other happy birthdays and Christmas and all that stuff, and she's just terrific. She plays my mother in the Fields.
Very cool.
So before we get to our next set of questions, I think we should tell Harrison a little bit about the cocktail we made for today, and we're going to make this for our friends in the watch along as well. We call it the special. Because we'll be watching the special later. And Matt, you want to explain what you did here?
Sure. So inside this thing, floating around and kind of chunky and viscous at the top, there is some grape jello, and it's select grain vodka from Christmas City Spirits here in Bethlehem, PA. So it's more or less a grape jello shot with that vodka has a very vanilla flavor to it. It's actually a sipping vodka. So it actually, you can sit and drink it and not feel like you're going to die, which is very rare for a vodka. And it is actually just floating over Sprite.
Yeah, we wanted to get that kind of texture and look of the poster of the special where you can see some of the blob stuff coming out of the box.
It is quite tasty. It was surprisingly tasty. If you listen to this podcast ever for anyone, you will find out rapidly that there are many things we try that aren't all that great at all.
You'll also find out that most of those things come from him.
That's
This poor guy's been hosting this podcast for so long, and he hasn't won any of our games yet.
That's very true. I've yet to win like one of our trivia episodes or any of the other history based like booze battles or anything else that we do.
Sure.
So I've mentioned to you before that I am an IT guy in real life, and I am fascinated with AI and how it's developing, and I'm company that I work for is looking for, like how Microsoft's going to incorporate it and things like that. And I understand that you wrote a 20-page letter to the LA Times that was never published. And actually, before the writer's strike started, on the potential impact of AI and what it would mean for writers in Hollywood. Would you talk about that a little bit, please?
Sure, yeah. And in fact, after this, I'll email you something that I'm working on with AI right now. But in the meantime, yeah, I wrote a 20-page letter to the unions, to both SAG and the WGA, and I sent it to the LA Times. I sent it to New York Times, Rolling Stone, Hollywood Reporter. Now, they're all corporate owned. That's one. The other thing is I wrote about that this strike is really humans' last stand, at least when it comes to entertainment. I've been saying for the last 20, 30 years that if I were a major movie star, I'd be copywriting or trademarking my image to prevent anybody from, just doing it, taking it away, because we are now within shooting range of, I'm going to say 5 years, where you can see Tom Hanks star with Marilyn Monroe. You can put James Bond, you can watch any James Bond you want and swap them into different movies. So if you want Roger Moore in Casino Royale, you can do that. This is all coming. It's all a little still to get, especially in the animation part. But if you saw the new Indiana Jones film this summer, then you will know what I'm talking about. Because when they pull that bag off his head in the movie, Harrison Ford is 42 years old again. And if you didn't know it was AI, you'd never know. It looks fantastic. I don't care what any critic says, though. Look, F you. It looked great. So someone's winning an Oscar for that.
Yeah, there's been quite a few de-agings lately that have really blown my mind. The one that comes to mind the most now is Samuel L. Jackson in the Captain Marvel movie.
Yep.
I mean, it looked like he was the same age as he was when he did Pulp Fiction.
Absolutely.
And I was like, this is crazy.
So now we're going to just generate, what we'll do is we'll just generate characters. I've had my crew go to work on, several of my crew went on to work on Shazam 2 in Philly. And one of them told me that they asked for like 3,000 extras. And when the 3,000 extras showed up, they only chose like 300. And when she asked, why did you do that? They said, well, we'll fill in the stadium with CGI people. And then the extras that were chosen had to go to a special trailer where they were all photographed in T-poses and all that. So their images can be replicated in the future. So this is here. It's not changing. I mean, I'm not telling the IT guy anything that he doesn't know. This is not technology that is not changing like, oh, you wait in a couple of years. We're talking a couple months.
Yeah.
Like I have to stay on top of all of this. I'm getting very proficient in stable diffusion. I'm understanding all of this with ControlNet. I'm understanding, autopose, all these things that are going on. And I'm doing it because I have to. And it won't be anything before, scripts are being written. I always have people going, no, people always want human written scripts. Really? Did you fucking see The Flash? Really? That needed a human being to write that? It was nothing but one long CGI bullshit thing. And really, we needed a human to write that? We're coming to the point where somebody's just going to say, give me Die Hard with Jaws, and I want a little Terminator action. And it's just, that's why these studio heads, especially Bob Iger of Disney, were so obnoxious in the beginning of this strike, because Bob Iger was not just speaking for himself, but he was speaking what I always call the head of the five families in the studios was, go ahead and strike. And when you lose your homes, you'll come back to us. That means, if you read between the lines, we're getting something better to replace you. That's what it really means. And eventually what's going to happen is, hey, you don't need to pay writers anymore, and you don't have to send out residuals, and you don't have to do any of that stuff because the algorithm's going to take care of it all. So it's happening. It's changing on a weekly, if not monthly advance. This stuff, like I watch tutorials every week, because if I don't, things change. Like in 2-3 weeks, it's all different again.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's what I wrote about in this 20-page letter, that back in the 80s, and I don't want to dwell on this, but back in the 80s, the studio should have sat down before everybody started dumping all their shit onto video. And they should have said, We're going to hold back certain films like the Library of Congress that are culturally relevant, and we're going to keep these films off of video, then re-release them in theaters, every so many years, whatever. And they didn't do that. And they just dumped their product out on video on substandard releases with bad transfers and grainy, poor contrast, not even letterboxed, all pan and scanned, and it was terrible. But they did it for the quick cash. And they never thought about the implications of this coming up. A lot of actors look, the laws could not catch up with the technology, and we're in the same situation now.
Yeah.
All the time. So, before you think, oh, that's never going to happen, you saw Rogue One, right? Peter Cushing was not just in the movie for 30 seconds in some bullshit cameo. The guy's in a third of the movie.
Yeah.
He's been dead since 1994.
Looks pretty good for a dead guy.
Looked pretty damn good for a dead guy and sounded pretty damn good. And I know they say, well, they had a real actor. It doesn't matter. It is getting to the point where we won't need real actors to put on the mask and, with the dots and the tracking. It's coming. And this is changing. You can now make AI video and insert camera angles. So all you cinematographers out there, you better understand that you're in college. If you're starting out as a freshman this coming fall, you might not have a position by the time you graduate.
Yeah,
you may be obsolete in 4 years. This is where it's going.
I have a good friend that's starting to learn Unreal Engine to try to understand, how to build digital environments and
do it.
And use different techniques to get the camera to make the same motion in real life that it does inside your virtual environment.
Absolutely. And it's all here. And for those that are going, you'll never replace real people. These are the same kind of people that 100 years ago said, why would anybody want to hear a movie? Why would anybody want talking motion pictures? Why would anybody want color? It's the same thing. We are at a precipice where we're going to go over the edge here. So these actors, you can strike for your residuals, you can do all you want, and you're going to get a few scraps thrown at you from the table, but there was no Bill of Rights drawn up, and SAG has not done it yet with the studios saying AI can't be used for the following things. They didn't do it. And the studios did not get together because they don't want to get together, because in the end, they want to develop this technology. They want this technology to finally make them independent. And my prediction is within the next 10 to 12 years, film studios will just become technology studios. That's what they will become. And people go, well, people want original stories. Don't give me that bullshit. They're ready to reboot Star Trek again. No, they don't want original stories. Really? We got Halloween Kills. We got Halloween Ends. We got the remake or reboot or reimagining, semi-sequel to Halloween 2018. Now we have another Exorcist movie. This is what we've got. This is originality. This is creativity. Get out of here. We're making the same garbage. That's what they're going to do. And they're going to recycle the same goddamn movie plots over and over and over. You've got George Lucas now saying, I want to buy back Star Wars because Disney fucked it all up, which they did. Okay? And anybody who tells you they didn't is wrong, because they took it and they ran it into the ground because they had to get that $4 billion back. That's what it was. They ruined Indiana Jones. They ruined Star Wars. They ruined it all. And they did it. And they've run Marvel into the ground the same goddamn way. And they're doing it all the time because this isn't about creativity. This is about content and numbers. That's what this is about.
I wanted to hop in. I don't know if you've seen any of the Disney series, like the Ahsoka series that's going on right now. That to me was some of the most Star Wars content that's been put out. It very much had that original vibe. You didn't know what was coming. It wasn't the formula. It wasn't the standard formula.
That's because Dave Filoni is George Lucas's reincarnation, even though George Lucas is still here.
Well, if you guys on Twitter, you go look up a guy, he has an account. He's called Ruin Johnson instead of Ryan Johnson. Look him up. This guy's account is like dead on. And in fact, Ryan Johnson, he pinned the tweet. Ryan Johnson tweeted this account and said, I have come to deeply respect the devotion of the owner of this account, because he calls himself Ruin Johnson. And you just got to see the account. You'll understand. You'll totally get it.
So why we got you going a little bit here, I want to talk about Rob for a second.
Oh, why are we talking about me?
Oh, we're going to talk about you for a second.
But he's so much more interesting than I am.
Because I want his take on a movie that you were in.
What were you in, Rob? Was it porn?
No, God, no.
One of those movies?
Couldn't get cast.
Wow. You really want to go there, buddy? You really want to go there?
I'll go there. I dated a porn star, so.
Well, good for you. Well, what are you talking about? Are you talking about the films that I made with my friends, or the actual film that I was in?
No, I'm talking about the film that people will genuinely know when you say what it is.
Okay. I did background work for the Ghostbusters reboot.
My condolences. Wait, which one? The Melissa McCarthy one?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. I went up. Well, so listen, I've been a lifelong fan of Ghostbusters, and
sure, same here. I've enjoyed it.
A good friend of mine was working on set. I don't know if I can say what he was doing. I mean, I guess the project's over, so whatever. I won't say. He was working as an assistant for somebody on set, and he called me up and he said, "Hey, send me a picture of your face and all of your measurements." He said, "I'm not going to guarantee anything, but somebody will call you." He said, "I'll guarantee that somebody will give you a call." So they gave me a call. Casting gave me a call, and they said, "Hey, we want you to come up and do some background work. Could you come for 2 weeks?" And I just started a brand new job, and I was like, "No, I just can't. They won't let me take off for 2 weeks." Because they originally wanted me to do the outro like dance scene where all the SWAT team and army gets possessed and does the dance.
Like 3 dance scenes in that movie.
So they wanted me to come for the first week to learn the choreography and then shoot it for the second week, which would have been in New York. I think they actually shot that in New York, but the rest they were shooting New York in Boston in a giant warehouse. Okay. Then they said, "Oh, well, can you come for 1 week?
Can you come to New York and Boston?"
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I couldn't do that. So eventually we settled on I could come for a day. So I came for a day, and I wound up, I'm in the movie twice as 2 different background characters in 2 different costumes. So it was fun. It was a cool experience. It's certainly crazy to see the scale of like a real set, because we were in just a giant warehouse and they built buildings. It's like I was in a 2-story hotel inside of a warehouse, and I was like, this is wild. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. So I don't know if I can get in trouble for saying this now, but I had no idea like what was kosher and like what you're allowed to do on set. So I'm waiting in the back lot, like waiting to get called to go shoot, and found this little tent that had delicious like margaritas and snacks and pizza, and I was eating, and somebody comes up and they're like, "Man, I feel so bad for like all of like the regular people here who aren't allowed to have this food." And I was like, "Yeah, me too." And then come to find out it was like a SAG tent, and I'm not SAG. So I just acted like I belonged, and then I tailed it out of there.
Good idea.
Yep. So yeah, that's my brief cinema experience.
So if you're ever looking for like 2 bloated corpses to lay in the background of one of your movies, your guys are right here. We can definitely do that for you.
Yeah, Harrison, I wanted to ask, so, obviously you're a jack of all trades, you write, you produce, you direct. Do you prefer directing something that you've written or directing something that somebody else has written?
I mean, you always prefer what you've written because it's kind of production shorthand. You know what you have in your head and you know what you want to do. The special, I did some polishing on the script, but that was someone else's script. That was 2 gentlemen, Mark Steensland and James Newman. And but I enjoyed directing it. I mean, if the script is great, it doesn't matter. If the script is good, it doesn't matter.
If you had to,
I enjoyed this.
If you had to pick one thing to do for the rest of your career, would it be directing or writing?
That'd be writing.
Writing?
Writing.
Okay.
So the one question I did want to ask is, as we said earlier, we are going to group watch the special here in a little bit. I have watched it before. The 3 that are joining me have not. Is there anything you want them to know before we start watching? I know what to expect here.
Yeah, you know what to expect. I mean, the cool thing I used to tell audiences when we debuted out in San Francisco at a horror sci-fi festival that we got accepted into. They wanted it. And I told the audience, see it with someone you hate. That's the best way to put it. It's kind of like a midnight horror chick flick kind of thing for anybody that's ever been cheated on. It's a great film. You'll want to give your lover the special. And, and that's what I enjoy about it so much, that, you really got to indulge yourself a little bit in the creature feature kind of weird. I just enjoy those kind of films so much. So my DP, Matt Neese, really did a wonderful job. Like the lighting of Madame Zora's, whorehouse is just so cool. Like I wanted this pastel kind of look, and he gave it. And so when you walk on that set and you have this picture in your head and you see that they gave you that picture in your head, I guess going into the film, the best thing I can tell you is just to enjoy it. But it does have a kind of cautionary kind of thing to it. But it's just a fun movie. Like it was meant to be a midnight movie for people to get drunk and yell back at the screen and be like, "Don't stick your dick in there." And that's the whole point of the movie. So what I did tell people when we opened the Sci-Fi Fest in San Francisco, I said, some of you are going to have some very uncomfortable conversations on the way home.
Yeah, I think we just got the soundbite for the trailer right there.
Yeah, I think we did. I think that was it too. I wanted to ask also, you worked with Cloris Leachman, Tara Reid,
Yes.
Danny Trejo, Tom Arnold, Sean Patrick Flannery, Patrick Warburton. If you could work with any of them again, or anyone else that you've worked with, who would be like, your top pick or a couple of picks that you would absolutely want to work more with?
I mean, I got to tell you, almost every single person I've worked with has been a delight. I wish I could work with Cloris again. She's gone now, but she was so much fun, and we stayed friends right up until she died. And she was just the definition of living life. I think I'd like to work with Cloris the most because she really was an inspiring person to work with. Like you could just sit and listen to her. I mean, she told the story of how she banged the living hell out of Gene Hackman in a hotel, and just stuff like that. She taught Marlon Brando's kids piano, and she got drunk with Jack Nicholson, and like just all these great stories. And she knew Paul Lynde, and I just loved all of that. So I miss her, and I miss what she gave. She was always a pleasure. But I loved working with. I'll tell you, Dee Wallace is like my second mom now. So I love Dee, and so it's just, I'm fortunate to have worked with a lot of really nice, great celebrities, and that the testament is I stay in touch with a lot of them.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's a testament to you as well, I think.
I guess, I'm not a prick director. I'm not that. I operate the same way as when I taught. And that is, if you have to tell somebody you're in charge, then you're not. I don't ever have to go on a set and say, I'm the director. This is my vision. I don't need to do that. It's just simply, I know what I'm doing. I'm not wasting anybody's time. We're getting the shot. We're going to make our day. And that's how it's going to be. And I respect the time of our celebrities and our talent and everybody, from the celebrities all the way, through the crew. It doesn't matter. You're there to get the movie done. That's it. And I think if more people just had that kind of attitude, you'd just see things run a lot smoother. I think across the board, outside of film as well too. But it doesn't always work that way. But I would say Cloris Leachman.
Very cool.
Awesome.
Well, we are very much looking forward to watching the product of your hard work here.
That's right.
In a little bit. You said watch it with somebody you hate. I'm watching it with 3 of my best friends on the planet. So,
well, I mean by that is romantically. If watch it with your ex,
All right. I don't want to do that.
But it was a good tagline. See it with someone you hate. It's the love story nobody wanted. That's really what it is.
There you go.
And you'll understand by the end of the movie.
Oh, absolutely.
Well,
And
we're looking forward to it.
I will say at the bottom of this cocktail, you do get a surprise because you're just like inhaling waterlogged, Sprite-logged Jello, and it's just slimy and.
Well, as long as it's not semen, you're in good shape.
Well, I don't know. Maybe that's the trailer.
Those might both make sound bites for sure.
Oh my. Well, I think we're gonna leave you to your evening, Harrison. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so very much.
You.
Yeah, next year
Send me
we'll
that
have to,
photo of the drink. Like, do a nice setup.
We'll get a setup
and the
for you.
ingredients.
We'll do.
Next
also the
year we might
ingredients.
have to do another Halloween episode. I could tell you about how I did amateur ghost hunting. I got some weird stories, man.
Oh, I love that kind of stuff.
I figured you'd be into it. But we'll save that for the next
Absolutely,
time.
Yeah, we'll have to save that one for another time. So thank you again very much.
Thanks, Harrison.
You're welcome. All right, gentlemen.
Don't forget to join us next week for our watch and react of Harrison's movie, The Special. Today's boozy quote comes from magician and comedian Tommy Cooper, who said, "I'm on a whiskey diet. I've lost 3 days already." On social media, please like, follow, and push all the buttons for us. That's Matt and Friends DTU at Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok. For more information about the podcast, as well as links to our merch store, social media, and all the places you can listen to us, visit our website, mattandfriendsdtu.com. That's mattandfriendsdtu.com. Thank you again for listening to Matt and Friends Drink the Universe.